That really was a volatile day. Crypto market was volatile. Bitcoin moved from $27,000 to $30,000 in a day and came back down to 28,400. So when you look at the entire market, everything was volatile. This is Ether. It actually started from 1784. It went up to 1964. Now it is at 1864. That is literally massive volatility in the market. So if you know what was about to happen, or at least an idea of, okay, I can expect something like this, now that kind of gave you an idea that, okay, this is something normal which is happening in the market, just a little bit more volatility. So if we look at XRP, it just shows us a different perspective. Yes, it came down, but the volatility was not that huge. While we look at the support level, we came back to 0.4335. That's an important level to watch, because understand the macro is changing, right? A central bank is coming out and giving you this idea. Just accept being poorer, or in other words, need to accept they are poorer. So whether you work 40 hours extra, make more money, it doesn't matter. You need to accept the fact that you are poorer. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now, what we are looking at is a move like this. We actually went through this saying, okay, we may actually bounce off from this level, but let's be realistic. We may still come back down, right? There is a huge possibility that this may bounce and get rejected at that level and make a new low, which was somewhere close like 0.228, say close to 0.43, and we came close to that level. But is the volatility in the market over? If you remember this post, now you understand, like, okay, we can actually look for something like this on the macro, where the outlook, if we have more patience, it's great, it's positive. On the short term, you may see heavy volatility. And that's one of the reasons why I was saying, like, okay, don't actually go leverage in a market where the market is showing you things like this. It can really be volatile, right? And right now we understand the actual fact. If you went in leveraged, believe me, a lot of guys would have taken out by the market. This is just Bitcoin. If you go look at a lot of medium, small cap assets, you will see massive volatility in those. So if you went in whether as a buyer or a seller and you were leveraged, now the market just kicked you out. And that was one of the main reasons why I actually shared this thought process. So coming back into the market, you can see that the market is slowly bouncing here and there. It is not clearly giving you a direction. Some of the assets are bouncing higher. We had our call on some of these, which are actually performing well, even though the market is volatile. They're moving higher since our breakout calls. And I'm like, okay, that's actually a positive thing to understand. But not every time these assets behave like this. When Bitcoin is volatile, some of those follow Bitcoin. That is usual. So right now, when we come back into the market and look at the market for what it is, we see that the dollar is breaking lower. This is important for us to watch, because on a weekly, dollar is breaking through its support level. That's important to note, because as you go through a lot of these assets like XRP, Ether, and whatever you want to look at, you understand the fact that yes, the macro is changing and these assets are being priced in based on the investor sentiment. So if you see dollar dropping and people understanding, okay, this is huge, now people should come a lot more into assets. Because if you see one of the biggest investors going out there and saying, okay, the best trade to do now is to short dollar, that means there is something wrong in the market, meaning he is confident about that particular trade. So I'm like, okay, if that's the case, it may not be just him, right? A lot of other people understand the fact that this is about to go lower. So now take that perspective and go into these assets. You will see like, okay, that means all of these assets are priced in dollar and they have upside possibility, Great. Now you actually zoom in all of these assets and you want to actually see like what they are literally doing. So you had a massive volatile day. It is a massive volatile day. But what we are observing right now is the price action going higher. So we are sitting here asking the question like, okay, are we just going to go parabolically to the upside? That's where we are trying to break things down. And I'm like, right now, it is not true that we are going parabolic to the upside unless we see the price action testing this range and breaking this particular range. Otherwise, it's just another retest of what just happened. It was massive volatile day, right? So you got a bounce from the support, you're going back up. If you get rejected close to this level of resistance or just above this resistance, you may still come back down, and that can be painful because the sense that next support level comes here shows you like, okay, if you are going in leverage right now, crypto market can actually whoop you. Now, you need to understand whether that's a buyer or a seller. If you actually mistime this, that is going to be really hard. So wait for the direction. That's going to be really important. Yes, we did call all of these things out, but what we have to understand is if the timing is a little bit wrong, now you're dead, because that's the market. That's how markets work. And especially when you're looking at, say, for example, you jump onto the chart of XRP and you want to actually see what that asset in particular is actually right now, how it actually looks like. So while you look at a 2-hour chart to see like, okay, we are monitoring volatility in this market. Agreed. So do you think the volatility is over? I wouldn't actually say so. I would actually stick to this support resistance and say, okay, unless this range of trading zone is actually being kicked out, whether that's by the bulls, whether that's by the bears, I don't care. That's the direction I'm waiting. Because if it happens in a way like, okay, I'm going higher, that's positive, meaning you actually see the price action on a short term giving you a lower low at a time when the same ranges give you a higher low. So the RSI is suggesting, okay, there is something bullish building beneath this situation here. So right now, you go on a 4-hour, you still see, okay, that still is a case on a 4-hour chart. So I'm not denying the fact that, okay, bulls are entering back into this market. And if you remember what we talked about earlier, we were literally saying 0.42, 0.43 range. Now we already came to that range. So if you are here as an investor, a trader, or whatever, logical guy, logical trader, now the question for you to ask is, this was a support zone which you were anticipating the price to come in. Now we came here. What else do you expect? The exact price range to buy in? I would say that's not happening, most likely, because it may wick to the downside and go back up, but it's going to be really hard to catch those falling nights at that great timing, because on that time, you're watching Bitcoin dropping, you're watching the market as a whole dropping, it's all volatile, and panic is everywhere. So it's going to be really hard. Rather, if you are looking at a scenario like this, you go onto a daily chart, and you look at the daily chart and put in the perspective saying, okay, I understand the fact that this is dropping right now, but I believe that this asset has a long way to the upside. Now, if you say that, now we are looking for the possibilities. Now we are looking for how this asset can actually go higher. So you literally say like, okay, what I've just watched in the market right now is that it has just completed the 3-legged upside and the followed in correction just after that, say an A, B, C. We got that. Great. Now, what do I expect after this? Am I looking for another wave structure like this, which actually goes from here? We'll have to see. But the thought process should more or less be like, in my thought process, that's what I'm thinking. You completed the wave 1, the short term, you are doing the wave 2, and most likely, yes, you're going to do something similar. And most likely, the momentum and the ROI can be higher than what we just observed in here. So if that's a 70% move, maybe if that's the bottom, you're going to see like a 80-85% move. So that's like $0.7 to $0.8. Now, if you're watching XRP breaking through that level, you shouldn't be a denier. Because understand, on the short-term scenarios, we are literally watching the divergence forming in, but we want to understand market react a lot to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is testing this range and getting rejected, coming back down, then you're going to be slow. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go higher. It would only mean like you can't do a 20, 30, 40% a day. You would most likely do a 2, 3, 4, 5% a day for every day when the Bitcoin is volatile. It's still fine. It's still okay. But unless we get a fundamental news narrative change in the market, it's going to be hard to observe something like that. Yes, we agree, like, at times we were saying, okay, there's about to go higher and it will come back down. That was the thought process, great. And we were also following it up with saying Bitcoin was going up and we were saying, okay, this is going as we discussed. But I think by the time we reach close to 30,000, we're going to drop back. Now, yes, I anticipated it to do in 2 to 3 days. That just happened in a day. I was surprised. But not by the price action, but by the volatility in a single day. So that literally happens in the market. This is crypto market. So if you understand the macro scenario and you're like, okay, this is what's happening, I need to be in the right assets and I need to understand what the market narrative here is like. Now that's your duty to actually come into these assets. Say if you are choosing one asset, say if you remember, we discussed about this particular asset maybe a month ago and maybe a week before. So we discussed about this asset a couple of times, and in a week it's already 20% up. In a month, it's 95% up. So if you actually understand there is a lot of opportunity forming inside this market, you can look at Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So we actually discuss through all of these different assets and the opportunities and possibilities in the market, because we really want to see where we are going, right? In terms of volume, in terms of price action itself. Because say when you actually go back into a chart and look like, okay, this is Bitcoin, and on a daily, let me take everything out, just keep the price action. What am I looking at? Right? There is a possibility that you are going to actually fake out. And there is still a possibility you may put in a new high. So what are these, right? That's what we have to look at. If the price action says, okay, I'm supporting this level, I'm going back up, I'm like, okay, this was not tested. Okay, historically, we have seen something like that. I agree, because as we zoom out, we also see the fact that here we have those range where you actually do these kind of things. But that's the initial phase of it, right? That's the initial phase of it. Because when you actually zoom in, try to break it down, now you see, okay, that was the case, but you did get a short-term volatility like this. You did an ABC price structure. So keep that out and you see the correction. Now, come back to where we are right now in Bitcoin. Now, I'm like, okay, if that can happen once in the market, why the hell cannot that happen again in the market? That can come down. Now, this particular C leg can get extended to the downside if the panic is heavy. Because right now, just on a daily, we did this. So maybe a couple of weeks, we may actually do that too. Now, the question becomes like, okay, this month is about to end. We don't even have a week for this month. Now, while we are looking at that and asking the same question to ourselves, if the monthly candle here shows you a bullish candle, what does it mean? That means you are bullish, ultra bullish. On a monthly and weekly, you are bullish because you are not looking for next 2 days. You are not looking for next 3 days here. When we were discussing, it's literally about next 2 days, next 3 days. What are the possibilities? And the odds for getting these calls right is really hard. You have to put in hours before you say something. Whereas on the macro, the benefit is if you understand the charts well, now you don't take that amount of time. And you also get low noise in the market, and it's so easy to go through that. So when you actually jump on a weekly chart here, it does show you the direction is to the upside. The trend is to the upside. Even though that's a macro trend to the upside, short-term narratives to the downside can still come into this market. And that's where the opportunities are. If you are new to the market, if you are looking for opportunities, don't just jump into a coin which someone else just say. Look for the assets, try to look at them individually, what the project is about, what the developers are doing, what was the last announcement, maybe in last 3 months, last 6 months. If there is nothing, you need to be cautious. You need to be cautious. So you literally have to follow the project that way and then come onto the market and see, okay, you think that project is great. Fine. Is the market looking at that asset in the same way? That's a big question, because if not, it may take a long time for the market to recognize that particular asset and it starts moving. But do you have that long in terms of your horizon? If not, it is going to be really bad. That's why we are looking at these assets and saying like, okay, history is playing out. Yes, we need some more patience, but we are here. We are at the resistance. If we break this level, which we are trying to do right now, it does mean like we are going all the way up. Remember when we were doing this back in 2020, we literally tested this range a lot of times, 1, 2, 3, and the 4th time we broke that to the upside. We came back down, we retested that level, we made a double bottom. So even if we are thinking like, okay, there is a big possibility of a ABC correction, that ABC correction can also be like this. If the bulls are so strong, they may not actually allow the price to go back down, because each time the price drops, they're like, I'm buying this, I'm buying this, I'm buying this. And whatever the sellers drop into the market, the bulls absorb that. So they don't really have the ability to go down. It's all supply and demand, right? Is it actually going to the upside? Is it actually going to the downside? Are we expecting a major drop and all? So on the short term, yes, I would say the charts does show me that we may actually go back down. We may come back down. Now, if that support doesn't hold, we will drop below that. Because the way I'm looking at it on the short term is like, okay, we got this correction, 1, 2, 3, and most likely you are going back down. And that means opportunity, right? It is going to be volatile. There is no choice otherwise if you want to make the real money here. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.